Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. Guys, this episode I'll cover in 3 parts because of that in this episode contains very large number of novel chapters, so please understand. So let's start. Shrek's 7 monsters were usually in the inner courtyard. Even though their cultivations weren't low, the inner courtyard was responsible for nurturing elite students like them. There were things to learn at every level. That's why they only gathered at the Tang sect on the weekends. Hu Hao found them very easily. When he finally approached Wang Donger's door anxiously, her door directly opened on its own. Wang Donger, who was decked in the inner courtyard's red uniform, looked fiery. She was stunned when she saw Hu Hao in front of her door, and almost punched him. "Surely you haven't been standing here all this while?" Hu Hao said honestly, "Yes. I've been standing here as a punishment so that I can earn your forgiveness." Wang Donger snapped, "Nonsense. I heard Dean Cai dragging you away. Your lies are not good enough." Hu Hao chortled and said, "Let's go. Elder Xian is looking for us. He seems to have something important to tell us." "All right." Wang Donger acknowledged his words before she closed the door to her room. After that, she followed Hu Hao to the first level of the Sea God's Pavilion. As they walked, Hu Hao said softly, "Donger, what, are you still angry?" "Yes." "How angry?" "Very angry." "What can I do to appease you?" "Can 2 wrongs make a right?" Wang Donger stared furiously at him as she stopped. However, she was greeted with Hu Hao's burning gaze. He was even looking at her lips. Wang Donger placed her hands on her hips and was about to erupt. Hu Hao hurriedly twisted his head and said, "Let's go. Elder Xian is waiting for us." After he finished speaking, he quickened his footsteps as they proceeded downstairs. Wang Donger mimicked a whacking action as she looked at him before following after him. She even pinched his waist a few times. Bei Bei, He Kai Tu, Shu Sansha, Jiang Nan Nan, Xiao Xiao, Hu Hao and Wang Donger had all arrived. However, they were not qualified to sit at the table. They lined up in a row and stood in front of Elder Xian. As a member of the Sea God's Pavilion, Hu Hao could sit. However, how could he sit when the rest of them were standing? Elder Xian complimented them in his heart as he looked at these vibrant youths. They had grown much faster than he had expected. Undoubtedly, they were going to be the future pillars of Shrek Academy. This future was coming quickly, too. "All right, all of you are present. I called all of you here because I have something important to discuss with all of you." Elder Xian lifted his wine gourd and took a sip. As long as it wasn't some formal gathering, he would drink. Fortunately, he didn't act like a beggar now. Elder Xian observed the 7 of them. When Bei Bei said this, all 7 of them revealed their self-confidence. Their confidence naturally originated from their abilities. "I don't need to check on the 7 of you yet. I called all of you here today because I wanted to brief all of you regarding the tournament. Not long ago, we received news that's not good for the Academy. However, it's an opportunity for all of you. The new edition of the tournament will be held in the Sun Moon Empire. Undoubtedly, all of you will be under great pressure, since you will be competing on the home ground of our main competitor." The Sun Moon Empire discussed some changes to the tournament system with the 3 empires earlier. They sought the opinion of the various academies and sects regarding their proposed change to the system. Bei Bei's gaze turned cold. As competing members of the top academy on the continent, changes in the system were likely to neutralize some of Shrek Academy's advantages. No wonder Elder Xian said that this wasn't a good thing for the academy. Elder Xian, yes, changing the tournament system. First, they want to change the qualification requirements. The age restriction doesn't change, the upper limit will still be 20 years old. However, they've expanded it to include all sects. This means that the tournament will now be renamed to the Continental Soul Master Youth Tournament. The number of teams will greatly increase. If this change is approved, there will be twice the number of competing teams. Attracting sects to participate? What was the purpose of doing so? All 7 of them were stunned, but they couldn't tell what the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy's goal was. Hu Hao asked, "Elder Xian, is it likely for it to be approved?" Elder Xian said without any hesitation, "Very likely." When this change was suggested, it received the support of many sects, especially the stronger sects. The tournament is a good way to showcase themselves to the masses. To these sects, it's a good way to advertise themselves, so they were quite willing. For example, the body sect is confident in becoming champions. After hearing Elder Xian's words, everyone went silent. If sects were allowed to participate in the tournament, they might no longer be odds-on to be the champions anymore. Just like Elder Xian had said, there would be a lot of trouble if the body sect also competed in the tournament, not to mention the rest of the sects on the continent. The body sect wasn't the only capable sect. In Hui Yuhao's heart, the Clear Sky sect was not inferior to the body sect. Bei Bei said, Elder Xian, it'll be much more difficult for us in this tournament. You called for us because you want us to up our training intensity over the next few months. Elder Xian waved his hand and replied, no matter how the system changes, I'm confident in all of you. In the last tournament, the 7 of you brought back the title of champions even under such unfortunate circumstances. 5 years on, the 7 of you are even better than before. So what if the other sects compete? Although this spells more trouble, I'm sure you'll emerge as champions. However, have the 7 of you ever considered the fact that a change in the system will be beneficial for you even if it's a bad thing for the academy? The 7 of you belong to the same sect. After hearing his words, everyone was stunned. As members of Shrek 7 Monsters, they naturally treated themselves as part of Shrek Academy. They were the main competing members of the academy. However, Elder Xian's words made it sound a little different. Shu Sancha was stunned as he asked, Elder Xian, are you saying that you are allowing us to compete in the tournament as part of the Tang sect? Elder Xian smiled and replied, I'm not approving anything. It depends on whether the 7 of you are willing. Their expressions changed as they looked at one another. Elder Xian said, if the 7 of you compete as part of the Tang sect, the academy will send another team to compete. All of you will still be recognized as Shrek 7 Monsters. This means that everyone will still know that you are from Shrek Academy even though you are representing the Tang sect. In this way, it's equivalent to our academy sending 2 teams out. This is double insurance for the academy. Bei Bei hesitated, however, if we win, the legacy of Shrek Academy's glory in the tournament will. Elder Xian replied, when Elder Mu passed away, he once told me that glory can't be your restraint. What's a little glory compared to the better development of the academy and your futures? Don't tell me that Shrek Academy will stop being the top academy on the continent just because we are not champions. As he spoke till here, there was a look of pride in his eyes. After bidding Elder Xian goodbye, everyone gathered at Bei Bei and Shu Sanchi's dormitory. Shu Sancha said, guys, what should we do? Should we represent Shrek or the Tang sect? He Kaitu said, I'm fine with both. To me, there's not much difference. Elder Xian was right. No matter who we represent, everyone will know that we're from Shrek. If we represent the Tang sect, it's equivalent to Shrek sending 2 teams for the tournament. Jiang Nan Nan furrowed her brow and said, I'm only worried. If we represent the Tang sect, it'll be very difficult for Shrek Academy to become champions. Whether they lose to us or others, it'll represent the end of Shrek's glory in the tournament. We fought so hard to preserve this glory during the last tournament. If we lose it just like that, I'll be very indignant. While Elder Xian appeared to be very calm about the matter, the influence of this glory will impact Shrek greatly. Xiao Xiao didn't mutter a word. She rarely opened her mouth during discussions. Bei Bei turned his attention towards Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong. What about the 2 of you? Hui Yuhao pondered for a moment before replying, I feel that we should represent the Tang sect. In terms of selfish motives, I want to do this for teacher Xiao Ya and do my best to help the Tang sect prosper. Disregarding selfish considerations, we can't rely on the academy forever. We need to make a name for ourselves too. As for the academy's glory, I don't think there'll be any conflict even if we represent the Tang sect. No conflict? Bei Bei was puzzled as he looked at him. Hui Yuhao whispered something, and everyone's gazes turned perplexed. Isn't this a little shameless? Will the committee allow this? Wang Dong couldn't help but say. She looked at Hui Yuhao with a weird look on her face. Hui Yuhao asked confusedly, how is it shameless? We're only showcasing our identities. No matter how the system changes, there shouldn't be any special restrictions in this aspect. Bei Bei and Shu Sancha looked at each other. Bei Bei was relieved, while Shu Sancha clapped his hands and said, 6th Junior, you're impressive. I didn't expect you to inherit eldest senior's slyness. Impressive. Bei Bei snapped and kicked, get lost. How am I sly? Shu Sancha avoided his kick and said, how dare you kick me? Be careful, or I won't give my best during the tournament. Bei Bei snorted and replied, then I'll send Nan Nan up to deal with the most troublesome opponent around, you. Shu Sancha opened his eyes wide and was filled with condemnation. Bei Bei acted like he didn't see anything and said, I think that little Junior's suggestion is very good. Since this is the case, we've solved our greatest problem. I also agree that we should represent the Tang sect to compete. Undoubtedly, Bei Bei, Xu Sanxia and Hui Yuhao were the core of this team. Xu Sanxia didn't say anything, but he appeared to be fine with the suggestion. Hui Yuhao and Bei Bei had already agreed, and thus there was technically a conclusion already. Bei Bei took in a deep breath and said seriously, "Then let's do our best for the Tang sect's glory in this tournament." As he spoke, he reached out with his right hand. Everyone reached out their right hands and they stacked their hands together. A strong camaraderie surrounded the dormitory hall they were in. "Yuhao, let's go. Let's tell Elder Xian what we think. The academy can also prepare." Bei Bei told Hui Yuhao, and they prepared to leave the dormitory. Undoubtedly, the modified Continental Soul Master Youth Tournament was a good way to find Tang Ya. If the Tang sect eventually emerged as champions, Tang Ya would learn of the good news, and perhaps she would return. Even if they couldn't find her, Bei Bei's promise to her could still be fulfilled. Hui Yuhao shook his head slightly and said, "Eldest senior, I would have died in the Great Star Do Forest if not for you and teacher Xiao Ya. The two of you are my benefactors. I was also given the chance to enter Shrek Academy because of the Tang sect. Although I'm a Shrek Academy student, I'm also a part of the Tang sect. Without affecting the Academy's glory, I'm willing to fight for the Tang sect's glory and teacher Xiao Ya. When we emerge as champions, she'll know about it and return." Bei Bei said with confidence, "Yes. Xiao Ya will be back. I will wait for her for my entire life." After receiving their report, Elder Xian looked as if he knew this was going to happen. He only instructed them to make their preparations. When the change to the system was confirmed, he would inform them about the registration method again. After exiting the Sea God's Pavilion, Bei Bei seemed to recall something. He asked Hui Yuhao, "Oh yes, a few people were here to find you yesterday. They came to the academy directly. Since you weren't around, the academy wasn't able to host them. They came directly to me. I asked them to proceed to the Tang sect first. If you are not in a rush, you can go and find them first. They seem to come from the Sun Moon Empire. Nana knows them too." After hearing Bei Bei's words, Hui Yuhao was elated. It was good news. He immediately guessed who was here to find him. "Eldest senior, was it a soul engineer named Xian Ziwen who was here to find me?" Hui Yuhao asked immediately. Bei Bei thought for a moment before replying, "I think there was such a person. I was busy with other things then, and didn't bother to converse with them properly." Hui Yuhao was delighted. "It's good if it's teacher Xian. Eldest senior, he's a Class 8 soul engineer. He's also a chief researcher in the illustrious Virtue Hall. If he's willing to join the Tang sect, our reputation in soul tools will soon grow in the continent." "Oh? What's going on?" Bei Bei was interested after hearing his words. Hui Yuhao recounted his bet with Xian Ziwen, and how he had attracted him to join the Tang sect. After hearing his explanation, Bei Bei finally understood, and was also surprised. Undoubtedly, it was very difficult to find someone of Xian Ziwen's caliber. Hui Yuhao was greatly strengthening the sect by poaching someone as capable as him. "All right, that's great. No, I must go with you." "Oh, wait, the seven of us should go together. Teacher Xian is very important. We need to show our respect for him," Bei Bei said decisively. Hui Yuhao said, "Eldest senior, did you mention that there were a few of them? Besides teacher Xian, who else is here?" Bei Bei laughed. "Why are you asking me? If you don't know, why would I know? Don't think about it. You'll know when we see them, all right." Hui Yuhao acknowledged his words, and the two returned to the dormitory to brief the rest before proceeding to the Tang sect. They had great freedom in the academy. They only needed to consult their teachers when they had any queries. There weren't any rules restricting their freedom. Bei Bei stared at him and asked, "Yuhao, what do you mean?" Hui Yuhao laughed bitterly. "I have to say this about these two. Eldest senior, you don't know how much they pestered me. Why are they here with teacher Xian to find me?" The two individuals that Hui Yuhao mentioned were sparring as Hui Yuhao and Bei Bei entered the courtyard, but they stopped when the two of them entered. As they saw Hui Yuhao's annoyed look, they revealed smiles on their face. These two were Ji Juechen and Jing Ziyan, Hui Yuhao's old foes when he was at the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. Hui Yuhao certainly didn't expect the two of them to be here in Shrek City. Jing Ziyan placed her hands on her waist and taunted him. "Why Hui Yuhao, why don't you welcome us? You're acting tough just because we're in your territory? If you're unconvinced, why don't you fight us?" Seeing these two pests, Hu Yuhao placed his hands on his waist and answered, "Okay. Are the two of you challenging the seven of us, or are we whacking the two of you?" Jing Ziyan was joking, but Ji Juechen took it for real. He had found another pitch-black iron sword. He pointed it forward, and his aura soared. He wasn't called a sword fanatic for nothing. As they felt the sharp and vicious sword intent, the rest of the seven were stunned. What was going on? Were they enemies? Stop fooling around. Let's clear things up before sparring. Hu Yuhao looked helpless as he approached them. After that, he turned to the rest behind him and said, "Let me introduce you guys. These two guys are Jing Ziyan and Ji Juechen. They are my good pals from the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy." Jing Ziyan grinned when she heard Hu Yuhao's introduction. When he said good pals, he sounded extremely furious. "They are my seniors and juniors in the Tang sect. Surely the two of you didn't come all the way from the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy to Shrek City to fight me, right?" Hu Yuhao didn't know what the two of them were up to. Ji Juechen shook his head immediately. Hu Yuhao heaved a sigh of relief. That's right, they couldn't possibly travel thousands of kilometers to fight him. However, Jing Ziyan followed with, "We came here to fight many, many rounds with you." What? Hu Yuhao almost choked on his saliva. Many rounds? Don't you need to study? Ji Juechen replied. "We've quit the academy." Hu Yuhao, come. Ji Juechen lifted his sword again. After he had stopped sparring, he had felt his improvement stalling. This also made him more certain that giving up his education at the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy to find Hu Yuhao was the correct decision. Hu Yuhao snapped, "Come, what come? Don't you see that I have guests? Also, where's Teacher Xian?" Ji Juechen's eyes were already filled with the light of competition, and couldn't be bothered. "Let's fight first." As he spoke, he lifted his blade, and a vicious sword intent was released. At this point, his soul power seemed different from before. It surfaced as a dim silver, and even his eyes shone with silver light. It was evident that his powers had improved. Ji Juechen said, "Yuhao, I developed a deeper understanding of sword intent, which I have named Dragon Slayer." "Come on, Dragon Slayer?" Hu Yuhao's expression turned weird, and he immediately twisted his head to look at Wang Chua. He muttered, "I'm not someone who picks on others, but someone has named his ability Dragon Slayer. Chua, can you accept that?" Wang Chua coordinated with him and snorted, "Of course not. Let me fight him instead." As she spoke, she took a step forward. She let out a deep roar, and the entirety of Tang sect seemed to shake momentarily. Following this, a strong competitive will rose from her. She didn't have any sword or fist intent, but only possessed an unprecedented and domineering fighting will. Her deep dragon roar shook the air, and intense golden light started to surround her entire body in layers. The rest of Shrek's 7 monsters widened their eyes as they looked at her. This works? Yuhao still dares to say that he's not a picky person? What is considered picky then? He passed on his hatred too easily. Ji Juechen was also stunned when his opponent suddenly changed. However, he recovered very quickly. To him, it didn't matter who his opponent was. The key was that his opponent was able to give him pressure. He couldn't find someone like that in the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. Otherwise, why would he travel all the way here? It was easy to tell whether one was capable after they made their first move. Chua only stepped forward, but she immediately repressed Ji Juechen's aura. This simple action already left him very impressed. Ji Juechen squinted his eyes, but the sword intent that he had unleashed suddenly turned gentle. While Hu Yuhao had passed on the trouble to Wang Chua, he didn't cease observing Ji Juechen. As his sword intent changed, his expression also changed slightly. Is he pulling off a reversal? No, it isn't at that standard yet. How does he hide it? A hidden sword intent is the most terrifying weapon. I didn't expect his improvement to be so great. He has already understood sword intent to such a standard. It seemed like it wouldn't be easy for him to deal with Ji Juechen. After all, he was focused only on swords, while Hu Yuhao had to learn many things. Perhaps he could beat him in overall abilities, but it would become increasingly difficult for him to tackle Ji Juechen's sword intent with just his own fist. At this point, Wang Chua moved. She didn't care about his sword intent or whatever tricks he had up his sleeve. In her eyes, her opponents would only meet with one result: destruction. Wang Chua burst towards Ji Juechen like a golden shooting star. Her right fist also turned completely golden, and she attacked without using any flowery skills. Ji Juechen held his sword with both his hands. He made half a step with his left leg and thrust forward. As this sword pierced out, the silver light around him was sucked into the sword, eventually gathering at the tip. The moment it stabbed out, the surrounding air seemed to overlap. As a boom sounded, her fist and his sword collided, and an explosion rang out. No one had expected Wang Qiu's fist to change at the last moment. Yes, it changed. Her fist turned into a palm. She tore through space just like that, and avoided Ji Juechen's sword. Her right palm struck the blade instead. Her body turned as the sword aimed for her vitals. The vicious sword intent that shot out struck the wall and caused a huge explosion, blowing apart a hole at least 3 meters wide. Ji Juechen's sword also started to crack at this point. Wang Qiu crushed his sword with her palm. As she made a turn, her left fist punched straight towards Ji Juechen. Ji Juechen subconsciously lifted his hands to block. Another boom sounded, and Ji Juechen flew back like a broken sack, slamming into the wall. 2 strikes. From the start to the end, Wang Qiu only unleashed 2 strikes. The fight ended just like that. As she stood straight, a gust of violent wind seemed to blow beside her. Her sleeves and hair were blown backward, and the golden light around her body was withdrawn. She was extremely strong. Everyone was stunned as they watched the fight. Jing Ziyan was the most shocked. She understood Ji Juechen's abilities the best. After he gained a deeper understanding of sword intent, his own sword intent seemed to have undergone a huge transformation. However, he lost so pathetically to Wang Qiu, even more pathetically than the first time he had fought Huayu Hao. She also only had 6 soul rings, just like him. Was this Shrek Academy's ability? Only Huayu Hao could tell that Wang Qiu didn't win easily, even though she appeared to be very relaxed. She seemed to have transcended space and avoided Ji Juechen's sword intent. Her sleeves and hair were not blown back because she was trying to act cool. She was trying to neutralize the shockwave from Ji Juechen's sword intent. She stood there for 5 seconds before the wind around her calmed down and disappeared. She was slightly stunned as she looked at Ji Juechen, who had formed a human-shaped hole in the wall. She nodded at him and said, "Bring a better sword next time." Ji Juechen was covered in dust now, and even looked slightly pathetic. However, his eyes were especially bright. He looked back at Qiu and nodded. Wang Qiu turned around to look at Huayu Hao and said, "Find me after you return to the inner courtyard." After she finished speaking, she didn't bother with the others and left just like that, as if she had just done something insignificant. Jing Ziyan's facial muscles were cramping slightly as she muttered, This is too much. "Huayu Hao, where did you find that lady?" Huayu Hao placed his hands behind his back and said carefully, "Those from the Tang sect are all of this standard. Don't bother finding me in the future. Have you seen? These are my seniors. What are your plans?" Ji Juechen didn't bother with the dust on his body, and nodded at Huayu Hao. He said, "Staying." Jing Ziyan also said, "We're definitely going to stay here. Give us a place to stay and eat. That'll be enough." Huayu Hao furrowed his brow and said, "You can't stay. The Tang sect doesn't accept outsiders. You will only be fed and given a place to stay if you join us." There was a reason why Ji Juechen was called a sword fanatic. When he saw swords, he had the same reaction as Xu Sancha when he saw beauties. His eyes immediately brightened, and he was filled with passion. He received the sword without any hesitation. Once the sword entered his hand, he immediately said, "It's a good sword, thank you." This sword's blade surfaces were 2 different colors, one was black and the other was white. Wasn't this the judgment sword that had sparked the evil fire within Ma Xiaodao during the last Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament? Elder Mu had eventually given this judgment sword to Huayu Hao. But Huayu Hao didn't use swords, and thus he took this opportunity to give it to Ji Juechen. Ji Juechen poured his soul power into the sword as he held it. A stunned look arose on his face. The combination of light and darkness was something he had never experienced before, but it was present in this sword. It was a truly strong sword. Huayu Hao said, "This sword is a close combat soul tool. It's also the strongest close combat soul tool that I've ever seen. It's called the Judgment Sword. It caused huge problems for us during the last tournament. I'm giving it to you now because I hope that you can unleash its full power. It doesn't have many requirements of its user and possesses great strength. I can feel that even the person who molded this sword was unable to unleash its full power. Just to reclaim this sword, Jing Hongchen came to Shrek Academy personally. From this, I'm sure you can tell how great it is. All right, thanks. Ji Juechen thanked him for the second time, which showed how much he liked this sword. A room for me? Hua Yuhao replied, okay. However, the two of you will need to shoulder some responsibility since you've joined Tang sect. Oh? Ji Juechen was startled for a moment. Hua Yuhao wore a serious expression on his face as he said, at least you'll need to be responsible for your own actions. Fix the wall. He was right. 2 of the walls had been damaged. The courtyard of the Tang sect was now exposed. Ji Juechen's expression stiffened, and he looked at Jing Ziyan as if he were begging for help. Jing Ziyan was also in a daze. She snapped, why are you looking at me? You're a big man. You want me to fix the wall for you? Do you still have face? Ji Juechen's expression turned bitter, and he asked Hua Yuhao, where are the bricks? Hua Yuhao's lips twitched, and he tried his best not to laugh. I'll find some for you. Jiang Nannan commented as she saw what happened, Yuhao, don't bully an honest person. I'll arrange your living quarters. Regarding the wall, let the few of them think about it, thanks. Ji Juechen felt as if he had met his benefactor. Shu Sancha was a little worried as he saw Ji Juechen's handsome looks and felt his naturally woody aura. He rushed to say, I'll go too, I'll go too. Hua Yuhao was speechless as he said, none of you saw how they tortured me in the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. I'm just exacting a little revenge on them. Shu Sancha and Jiang Nannan brought Jing Ziyan and Ji Juechen away to their living quarters. Bei Bei watched as they left and didn't hide his delight anymore. Little Junior, it seems like the Tang sect is becoming more and more prosperous. Those two aren't ordinary. Teacher Xian. Hua Yuhao called out. Xian Ziwen continued to squat as he turned around to look. He waved his hand before turning his attention back to the soul tools. Hua Yuhao quickly walked towards him before squatting down as he reached him. Teacher Xian, don't peek. They are our secrets. Xian Ziwen snapped, stop spouting nonsense. What procedures are needed to join the sect? Tell me quick. Did you know that waiting for you here the past few days was equivalent to wasting my life? Bei Bei was in a daze. This guy is even more direct than the previous two. Evidently, his passion was for soul tools. For people like Xian Ziwen and Ji Juechen who could be so devoted to a single thing, they were either lunatics or geniuses among geniuses. Hua Yuhao naturally knew that Xian Ziwen wanted to join the Tang sect since he had volunteered to come on his own. He shot a look at Bei Bei immediately. Bei Bei still didn't understand, and quickly walked up to him before squatting down beside Xian Ziwen. He said, hello Teacher Xian, I am currently the eldest senior of the Tang sect. Welcome to the Tang sect. Let's do it this way, you'll be our deputy sect master from now on. You'll be in charge of soul tools. Xian Ziwen wasn't bothered about such things. Otherwise, why would he leave the illustrious Virtue Hall? Oh, all right. Yuhao, give it to me. As he spoke, he gestured to Hua Yuhao. Hua Yuhao naturally knew what he wanted. Do you want the earliest set of information regarding the Tang sect's secret weapons, or do you want them with my research? Xian Ziwen replied, the earliest set please. If I see your research, my train of thought might be disrupted. Oh, leave that metallic man with me, too. Can I enter now? Although he was a soul tool fanatic, he was more in touch with the world compared to Ji Juechen. Otherwise, he would have rushed into the forge already. Hua Yuhao said, guys, bring one complete Sugar Divine Crossbow Cannon for Teacher Xian to study. Eldest Senior, give one set of the hidden weapon manuals to Teacher Xian, all right. Bei Bei retrieved a set of hidden weapon manuals for Xian Ziwen. Teacher Xian, let us arrange your living quarters. Xian Ziwen's gaze was fixated on the Sugar Divine Crossbow Cannon that came out from the forge. His eyes brightened. No rush, no rush. Go and get busy. You don't have to bother with me. Yuhao, don't leave today. I'll find you tonight for a talk, all right. Hua Yuhao tugged Bei Bei and gestured to the rest of them before leaving. He understood Xian Ziwen. He lost his sense of time once he entered his research state. When they returned to the meeting hall, Jiang Nannan and Shu Sancha had also returned. Their expressions were very weird. After Ji Juechen received the judgment sword, he took it and went into retreat. Jing Ziyan also went to rest. Bei Bei said, youngest junior, it's not really a good idea to leave Teacher Xian there on his own, right? Hua Yuhao shook and said, don't worry, eldest senior. He came to the Tang sect for proper reasons. Just let him do what he wants. Xiao Xiao was a little worried. Yu Hao, surely he's not here to steal confidential information before leaving, right? Although Fan Yu and Xian Ziwen were both Class 8 Soul engineers, there were still big gaps in terms of their experience and thinking. He Kaitu was quite pleased to see Xian Ziwen here. Furthermore, he was also a Class 7 Soul engineer himself, and was very familiar with the Tang sect. With him around, Xian Ziwen's research would also be expedited. Hui Yu Hao said, "Eldest senior, let's stay in the Tang sect tonight and return tomorrow." "Oh wait, I can't. I still have to make a return trip. I also have a present for the Tang sect." Wang Donga stood up and said, "I'll go with you." Bei Bei smiled even wider as he observed his juniors. As he looked at the sky outside, he muttered to himself, "Xiao Ya, if you're still around, you'd be very delighted to see the improvements the Tang sect has made. Hey, are you feeling emotional again? Don't be like a girl." Shu Sancha taunted him. "What's wrong with girls?" Jiang Nan Nan and Xiao Xiao were both displeased as they stared at Shu Sancha. Shu Sancha coughed. "Girls are great. Girls are gentle, passionate, and sentimental. However, guys are different." Jiang Nan Nan stood up and said, "I'll go find a gentle and passionate guy." "Don't. My wife, I was wrong." Shu Sancha was deservedly the owner of the shield of the Xuanwu turtle. He greatly encapsulated the true meaning of a turtle, adaptable. "Who's your wife? Watch your mouth." After Jiang Nan Nan had established her relationship with Shu Sancha, she stated that their status would develop according to the situation. Shu Sancha had to be tested frequently. He was tormented and happy at the same time. In fact, he was even a bit of a masochist. Bei Bei also stood up and added, "Sancha, let's go and work out. I've not whacked you in ages. I'm itching to do so." Shu Sancha stopped cajoling Jiang Nan Nan and started to laugh coldly. "It's still too early to tell who will lose. Nan Nan, let's whack him together." Bei Bei wouldn't allow himself to be disadvantaged like that and immediately said, "2 versus 2, who's scared of who?" "Xiao Xiao, pair up with me." "Yes." Xiao Xiao was very obedient, and immediately agreed. 2 hours later, Hui Yu Hao and Wang Donga saw how pathetic two of them were when they brought the dark golden terraclaw bear cubs back. Jiang Nan Nan and Xiao Xiao were fine, but Shu Sancha and Bei Bei looked pitiful. A bruise had even swelled up on Bei Bei's forehead, and he was attending to it. Shu Sancha was in an even worse state, as half of his face was swollen. Shu Sancha was furious as he claimed, "Bei Bei, are you still human? We agreed not to hit one another's faces, but you still did so. It was definitely deliberate." Bei Bei snapped, "Deliberate? Didn't you do the same? Look at my head. Look how bad you hit it. The bruise is so big. You are completely inhumane. How can I show myself to others anymore? Stop quarreling, stop quarreling. Seniors, we are back." Hui Yu Hao saw the two of them the moment he entered. He almost burst out in laughter and rushed over to mediate. Hui Yu Hao's conjecture was right. Ji Juechen was very deep in his closed-door cultivation and didn't attend the celebration dinner. The dinner was sumptuous. In order to host Xian Ziwen and Jing Ziyan better, Hui Yu Hao even grilled some fish personally. This wasn't just a celebration dinner. Shrek's 7 monsters hadn't gathered together for quite some time. They enjoyed a full meal and spontaneously decided to stay at the Tang sect tonight. After the dinner, Xian Ziwen called Hui Yu Hao to his room. More importantly, the Crown Prince has always been very active. Once he succeeds to the throne, a huge war will start in the near future. I'm only a soul engineer researcher. I don't want to be involved with and stuck in a war. I don't want to be ambushed by the body sect again, either. My research requires stability. I'm not willing to rely on anyone either, even if it's on Jing Hongchen. I hate politics. The Tang sect's atmosphere is very good and relaxed. Shrek City also holds a special position on the continent. I think I'm liking it here already. As he spoke to this point, Xian Ziwen revealed a smile on his face. Hui Yu Hao smiled too. We're more glad that you're here. Maybe we'll be involved in a war in the future. However, no one will force you to do anything. It's fine if you do what you like in the Tang sect. We'll do our best to handle external matters. Xian Ziwen nodded and replied, "That's great." He stopped for a moment at this point and looked at Hui Yu Hao. After a brief moment of silence, he said, "Yu Hao, have you thought of a future?" Hui Yu Hao was stunned for a moment and didn't understand what Xian Ziwen meant. Xian Ziwen looked at him seriously and asked, Don't you think that you are too complex? No one is omnipotent. Hui Yu finally understood what he meant, and nodded. Yes, I understand. However, I don't wish to give up on being both a Soul Master and Soul Engineer. I just proposed to Shrek Academy today that Soul Masters should be taught how to use Soul tools. He explained his proposition to Xianziwen. Xianziwen nodded and said, that's right, but it's different from your situation. You aren't just using Soul tools, you are learning and developing them. You have even reached a deep level. I know it's very difficult for you to give up everything now. However, everyone's energy is limited. No one can be a master of all trades. You'll need to make a choice. You are talented in the aspect of Soul tools. You have become a Class 6 Soul Engineer, even though you are still so young. You are even on the verge of reaching Class 7. I am almost certain that you will become at least a Class 9 Soul Engineer if you continue to work hard. You won't take more than 20 years, either. You might even become the youngest Class 9 Soul Engineer ever. However, I am also almost certain that every step from Class 7 onwards will become extremely difficult. I've been a Class 8 Soul Engineer for 8 years, and I'm only just approaching Class 9. My cultivation is still sorely lacking. If you want to become a Class 9 Soul Engineer, you'll be restricted by time in terms of your Soul Master capabilities. With your talent, it won't be long before you become a title Doluor. However, it'll be very difficult to develop further if you invest your time in Soul tools. Although a title Doluor Class 9 Soul Engineer is very strong, you might even choose to become a Class 10 Soul Engineer. Do you want that? Xianziwen stood up and stepped forward slowly. Your previous performance was too outstanding, and concealed some problems. However, these problems still exist. I saw everything that you've done in the illustrious Virtue Hall. Kid, you are too tired. His words seemed to touch Hui Yuhao's soul. His body shuddered slightly. Xianziwen walked up to him and patted his shoulder. He said, I invested all my energy in Soul tools. As an 8-ringed Soul Doluor, I don't even remember what my Soul skills are. However, I have plenty of time to think. What about you? Do you have plenty of time? You don't. You don't even have time to think. In your case, you might not even reach your peak in both aspects. The worst-case scenario is that you'll collapse. You're already a Soul King. It's time for you to choose. From the fighting style that you always use, I can tell that you see yourself more as a Soul Master deep in your heart, and not a Soul Engineer. Am I right? Hui Yuhao nodded slightly. Xianziwen said, it's nothing much. I also think that you are more suitable to be a Soul Master. Compared to your talent as a Soul Engineer, your twin martial souls are undoubtedly more outstanding in the world of Soul Masters. Tapping into your greatest advantages is the correct path you should choose. When the first ray of sunlight shone into the Tang sect the next morning, the entire Tang sect was dyed with a layer of dim gold. Part 1 end here.